Hello and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Natasha Nurani. I am a musician, a music curator, and an ethnomusicologist from Lahore, Pakistan. It's an honor to be a part of the Women of the World Festival for 2021. Today, I'm going to be speaking to you about something that I enjoy daydreaming about quite a lot, which is imagining a future for women in the Pakistani music ecosystem. For those that may not be familiar with the ecosystem of Pakistan, it's mostly run by commercial ventures which fund music. There are no record labels to write home about, and there are very few spaces in terms of concert spaces or accessible studio spaces that exist to the public at large. The role of women within that is also further kind of diminished for multiple reasons, including kind of society frowning upon women in such spaces or in such roles for a multitude of reasons. And currently, what the mainstream had been like until maybe 5 or 6 years ago was very few women in pop music and even fewer women in different genres such as rock and rap. But thankfully, that's changed quite rapidly over the past 5, 10 years. You've got some wonderful women at the forefront, including Hania Aslam, Zara Paracha, and Natasha Humera Jazz, all of whom are excellent musicians and phenomenal producers, and just excellent guidelines for how women can kind of play a massive role in changing and developing the sound and the culture of music in Pakistan. Um, I mean, primarily these are women who have really kind of tackled a male dominated, male oriented space to pave the way for themselves, and they've done it quite with like grace and elegance and poise and phenomenal music within that. The great thing to have seen in the past 5, 6 years is also younger women, women between the ages of say 15 and 30 coming up with new ways to kind of make music or find ways to learn music. There are a lot more female musicians than previously before. Usually women would be stuck within the trope of just being singers and very rarely would be seen on the mixer or in the studio as a part of the team. And a lot of the women that I've mentioned and many more have changed that. You see more female session musicians. You see a lot more women producing other women, and that's been like a wonderful change. Um, to speak from my own experience in terms of what hurdles one might face coming into the music industry as a woman in Pakistan is first and foremost um, there's no kind of way, there's no map to follow, there's no ladder to seek in terms of developing a skill set. Music is not a part of the education system in Pakistan, so it's something that you have to actively go out of your way to learn. Gear and instruments are not accessible or affordable. It's gotten better in recent times, but growing up, it definitely was very difficult getting your hands on a guitar or a piano, or something that would actually help the learning process as opposed to hinder it. That paired with the fact that a lot of the access that one would have to listening to music or getting inspired or learning more music would be to go to different spaces, like to go to gigs, very simply. And in the 90s and 2000s, and currently to a larger degree, concert spaces and entertainment spaces are not necessarily safe spaces for women to attend or to be present in, just primarily because of the fact that the ratio and the way that these events had been marketed, or the kind of audiences that these events hope to amass, really didn't consider how young girls and women would play into the audience and would just be clumped together in a family enclosure, which means that you need to come with a set of people. So the thought of a young girl attending a concert in the evening alone was and is largely still unacceptable to society, and these spaces aren't designed for that. So just even seeking inspiration, or just finding new music, or just understanding that maybe performing live, or doing live sound, or being in a studio would be a reality, that definitely that seemed like a far-fetched dream. um, I was very lucky to be surrounded by people who opened up their musical spaces to me, and to have absorbed and consumed a lot of Pakistani music and international music over the thanks to technology. So that really kind of made things a lot easier in terms of deciding and kind of acknowledging that music is something that I would like to pursue, and of course study for that very reason. It's it's also very difficult, still, definitely a lot more earlier on, to kind of fight societal pressure to not be a woman pursuing music, because the connotations of women pursuing music, from the pre-partition era, 18th century onwards, just kind of started deteriorating, and that really seeped into society in a way that has been hard to shake off, but not impossible, because as I mentioned, there are just a lot of women who are really, really just kind of trailblazing through setting examples through their work. But that wasn't necessarily true. It was either you could be one type of the female artist, which was, to no fault of the women, to be token women in a song, or to be something to be objectified, and also primarily to be singers, because playing an instrument, or being a producer was never really, and is still kind of laughed at. Um, and that's something that's really been wonderful to see a difference in, with younger women picking up instruments, and being valued for the kind of craft and the craftsmanship they have, and the skills that they've developed. Permission to access studio spaces is also something that really didn't resonate with a lot of people, in terms of these studio spaces being largely male dominated, having work hours that were not flexible, working late nights at in spaces that didn't really have many kind, like an understanding of what it would be like to be a young girl in that space. I was lucky to have encountered various musicians who created that kind of environment for me, or at least tried to the best of their ability. And I am very aware of the fact that not everyone gets that. It is something that comes with privilege, it's something that comes with capital, it's something that comes with a lot of luck in a way as well. But I think now the wonderful thing and the kind of future to imagine is that women no longer have to play this kind of gimmicky role. They don't have to um, kind of be a certain set type of female artist that Pakistan might be used to. And in doing so, I feel like there are some action points that the community that has been kind of nurtured and developed over the past, say, decade, with women supporting women across, within music and outside of music, in terms of production, filmmaking, art, artwork development, and things like that. It's become a lot more fuller and a lot more lush. But I do see a lot of young girls wanting to enter the field and being so confused, because you have to really work twice as hard to stand out, or to really prove your worth, because it's very easy for you to get replaced with someone who can just work longer hours, or just people. It's just more convenient for people to not have to consider those things, so you just end up missing out on opportunities, especially if you're not willing to compromise on certain things, or you have certain restrictions. So it's just that's usually used as an excuse for, oh, okay, we don't want to hire a woman in the field. So whether it's production management, whether it's curation, whether it's research, whether it's production and music making itself, the few tangible ways forward that I feel would benefit the community is to develop a lot more female oriented spaces that cater to more women teaching other women without the kind of patronizing angle, or without, kind of using a woman in a band or in a room or in a studio space as a token to push forward. It isn't meant to be an agenda. It's meant to be something that equalizes opportunity, because talent is like endless when it comes to these young women. And it's so inspiring to kind of draw inspiration from people who are just picking up an instrument and picking up a craft and taking that forward. So to be able to take these young women, and put them in positions where they can understand what management looks like, or see that there are a few steps in terms of the kind of things, the skills that you need to acquire during school and college, and what to do after that, and institutions and spaces that open up their doors to provide more access for these women. I think that's such an important step to do, and a lot of this in previous years has been done through viewing women who are leading by example, and just going to yourself and being like, okay, this is possible, this is something that I can actually consider, because just by virtue of seeing another woman in that role or another woman in that room, you feel like you could also have a place at the table. It is also important to really kind of construct learning spaces that may not necessarily tie into your standard education system, but do enable more women to pick up skills that they may have avoided previously, or may have been kind of brushed off with in their desire to want to learn. And that does come from, as I mentioned, creating safer spaces that are led by women. I feel that a lot of the work that Zara Paracha and I did for developing the Lahore Music Meet, an annual music festival, as a property, as a space, was to just consider what we would like, or what we would have liked growing up, or the kind of examples or the kind of musicians and artists and skills that we would like to have developed growing up, or somebody just telling us that this is the syllabus that you need to follow, something even as basic as that. And more so having ears that are non-judgmental, willing to hear us out at various stages, at picking up instruments, at kind of wanting to have many questions about entering the industry, and not just having to do guesswork. And I think a lot of what 1960s and 70s Pakistani music and Pakistan's music ecosystem look like is very excellent to look at as a precedent for what Pakistan's industry can look like in itself. Artists like Nahid Akhtar managed to just completely traverse any kind, like she just did not let herself get boxed into any genre. And that's someone that I like to draw a lot of inspiration from, because she didn't choose just a certain type of music, or kind of lock in a certain type of genre or fit a trope. She did everything. And I think that outlook, and to have seen that in some version of Pakistan's music industry, is something that I really kind of cling on to for inspiration. And I feel that the more we study and celebrate the women that have kind of established what the Pakistani sound has been in the past, we'll be able to empower the Pakistani women of the present and future to be able to do that. So, I mean, whatever you're imagining for women in Pakistan's music ecosystem, share that far and wide. Reach out to women, let them know the exceptional work that they're doing, because there are plenty of people kind of putting them down. And I feel like any opportunity that we all get to garner a sense of community and give back, and clear the space and clear way for more women to enter, I feel like that really is the perfect daydream to constantly have, that I really hope to see become more of a reality in the near future. Thank you so much for your time. I'd love to hear your thoughts at any point.